Are you scared? Well, you should be scared. Not by whatever the hell that weird intro was, but because of this. Call of Duty is going to be going open world for their next campaign, for this whole like Black Ops Gulf War for 2024. Now, of course, I'm going to share all my thoughts on this stuff with you guys. I already am sort of aware of what's going on, but this is my first time looking at this article. I've only seen some of the tweets from Charlie Intel, so let's dig in. What's more worrying about this article is not just the fact that they're saying that Black Ops Gulf War is going to have an open world campaign, but it says Call of Duty to embrace open world campaigns in Black Ops Gulf War and beyond. That's what's scaring me. That's what does not sound good. So that's where we're starting. Let's keep reading. This year, Call of Duty is set to embrace an open world campaign in Black Ops Gulf War, Insider Gaming has learned. It won't be the first time that the series has seen an open world-esque campaign, though, as the first glimpse of what such a campaign could look like was first explored with Modern Warfare 3 and its open world. It wasn't open world missions, it was open combat missions. That's what they called it. But anyway, close enough. However, sources explains that unlike Modern Warfare 3, Gulf War's campaign has been built from the ground up rather than using assets from previous entries. Dude, I want to say some things, but we have to keep reading. Currently, the game's open world will see the player and their squad navigate the map more akin to that of Far Cry than anything we've seen before in the Call of Duty universe. Players will be able to utilize vehicles to get around, as well as use a fast travel system to get from one point to the next. Although the scope of how many linear missions there will be remains to be seen. Sources confirmed that some linear missions will be integrated into the game. The campaign, developed by Raven Software, multiplayer and zombies to be handled by Treyarch Games, or Treyarch Studios, will see the return of some Black Ops characters, including Adler, who will be part of your team. Outside of Black Ops Gulf War, sources also revealed that it's likely the series could lean into more open world campaigns over linear moving forward. Call of Duty 2025, codenamed Saturn, which currently doesn't have an assigned leading developer, is also pitched to have an open world campaign, with its map being separated into several different biomes and locations. While the pitch for the game is very much in flux due to its early development, 20 months until launch at the time of writing, it was said that the campaign's shift from linear to open world is primarily based on streamlining development over anything else. But whether this changes or not by release is unclear. Call of Duty Black Ops Gulf War, currently forecasted to release in October of 2024, will be the 6th entry into the Black Ops series. Is that true? That is true. Wow, okay. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So I'm not exactly sure how you guys might be feeling about this news, but I don't like it. I just have to be honest. I really don't like the idea of Call of Duty campaigns trying to go open world. This is sounding very similar to what happened with Halo Infinite, where there were like a handful of linear missions, you know, the missions that people came to expect from Halo as well. And maybe this is a side effect or a consequence of Microsoft and Xbox now owning Activision and owning the rights to Call of Duty. But it really just sounds like they want to plug in what they've been doing with Halo to Call of Duty now. And I don't get it. I don't think it's gonna work. I think it could be a terrible, terrible idea. And look, man, I know a lot of people play Call of Duty just for the multiplayer. They don't care about the campaigns. But at the same time, when it came to the really old Call of Duty games, you know, the ones that a lot of people were really fond of, there was a really good connection between the campaign experience and the multiplayer experience. And still to this day, most people play the campaign for Call of Duty to get a feel for the characters, to see what the weapons are, to see what the factions are, and then you would go into multiplayer after and you would see how it all ties in, how it's all integrated. That's definitely something that has not been as influential, or at least hasn't made as much of an impact as it used to, which is, you know, that's also a shame. But if they're going to be going open worlds with the Call of Duty campaign, I feel like that's just going to make it even worse. Because the reason why so many people like these linear missions in FPS games is because it's a little bit easier to tell the story. It can, you know, drive the narrative, but it also makes it feel like you are a soldier going out on missions. When you're just playing an open world game, you're kind of free to explore and do whatever you want. And that doesn't really fit the gameplay style of Halo or Call of Duty. And I know I'm talking about Halo a lot, and that is because Microsoft and Xbox, they own Call of Duty now, so they might try to do the same thing, and that does worry me. And I really do think this type of scenario does apply to both franchises, not just Call of Duty or not just Halo, both of them. But I do want to go back to certain sections of this article and explain what I'm thinking when I read some of these things. So right off the bat, on the very first paragraph here where they're talking about Modern Warfare 3's open combat missions, this is actually why a lot of people ended up shit-talking Modern Warfare 3 before the game even came out. And again, even though I'm sort of outside of the majority opinion on this. A lot of people really did not like Modern Warfare 3's campaign, mostly because it's the shortest Call of Duty campaign ever in history, aside from Black Ops 4, which didn't have one at all. And it's because of this. It's because of the open combat missions. And yes, there was some added replay value. You know, you could go back and play the missions at least like 1 or 2 other times to try to either loot everything or, you know, possibly, you know, beat the game on veteran. But aside from that, there wasn't a lot of depth in those open combat missions. And I know that they're saying that it's been built from the ground up to reflect this. It's not going to reuse assets. That was something that they also got a lot of flack for, was the fact that a lot of the campaign missions were just Verdansk from Modern Warfare 2019. Now, I said this in my campaign review for Modern Warfare 3, and I'll say it again. It doesn't really bother me that much that they're not making unique and original locations for the campaign missions. And it's because back then, you could go back to like Call of Duty 4, right? One of the best COD games ever. And this holds true for a lot of Call of Duty campaigns, if not every single one of them. They do reuse the maps. There will essentially be a campaign version of the map, and then they'll change some things around to port that over to multiplayer, so it's a good multiplayer map experience as well. They've been doing this pretty much since the inception of Call of Duty, so that part doesn't really surprise me. What a lot of us felt was a bummer about the Modern Warfare 3 campaign was the lack of classic campaign features that could have added more depth and replay value to the campaign, like hunting after intel, being able to unlock cheats, which would add, you know, a completely different way to be able to play and experience the campaign, having different difficulties, being able to play campaign co-op with your buddies. There's a lot more they could be doing with and for these COD campaigns, but they just haven't been doing it. And in fairness for Modern Warfare 3, we know how bad the development cycle was. They only had like, what, 16 months to make the game? So that is kind of understandable. But we've been waiting for Black Ops Gulf War, a new game from Treyarch, for quite some time. And now we're discovering that it's not really being made by Treyarch. It's actually Raven. Now, that does give me a little bit more confidence, and here's why. Raven Software has been assisting the development of Call of Duty games, I think, since Black Ops 1. Raven was responsible for the majority of Modern Warfare Remastered's developments. They've also been working on Warzone and stuff, and they assist with a lot of different things here and there. They also were responsible for the war mode in Call of Duty World War II. They have done some pretty amazing and incredible things, and they're being given the chance to work on a Call of Duty campaign. So this is going to be their time to shine and prove themselves. Who knows? Maybe their take on an open world Call of Duty campaign could be good, but I'm just very doubtful, especially after Modern Warfare 3, man. The fact that they describe the open worlds for Call of Duty as something that's closer to Far Cry than anything that we've played in COD, I don't know if that's necessarily a good sign. I'm sure some people would argue that there's better open world games that they could try to emulate, but regardless, if it's more like Far Cry than it was for Modern Warfare 3, then I think that at least is somewhat of a positive. They're also saying we'll be able to use vehicles to get around the map, and we can use fast travel. I mean, we had vehicles in the Modern Warfare 3 campaign. Fast traveling, you know, is obviously super helpful in really big open world games. So, I mean, who knows the scope of how big the map will actually be and, you know, how it's going to work. But they're also saying they have no idea how many linear missions will still be in the game, you know, for the campaign for Black Ops Gulf War. So it doesn't always have to be the case, but typically when games go open world like this, it's usually a little bit more difficult to tell the story. And, you know, weirdly enough, I think Call of Duty could go this route because as of lately, they've really only been telling the story through cutscenes. You don't really get to experience the story, the narrative of the game from the player perspective, which is another thing that the newer Call of Duty campaigns have been missing. You know, back in like Call of Duty 4, the original Modern Warfare 2 and stuff, you would experience the narrative and, you know, really important plot points and things happening through gameplay. Warning, spoilers inbound. Skip to this section of the video if you did not play the Modern Warfare 3 campaign. So at the end of the new Modern Warfare 3's campaign, you know, Captain Price, he ended up shooting and killing General Shepard in his own office, but we didn't get to do that. There was nothing from the gameplay perspective or standpoint that allowed us to have any kind of satisfaction in killing General Shepard. We just had to sit there and watch it happen, which was somewhat satisfying after what Makarov did to Soap, but it's nowhere near as satisfying as the original General Shepard death in the first Modern Warfare 2. That mission, hands down, has to be one of the most badass Call of Duty missions ever. You're chilling with Captain Price on the speedboat with Protocol blasting in your ears, perfectly crafted by Hans Zimmer. It's so fucking good. Like, the setup for it is just so incredible. You're trying to dodge helicopter fire, you're killing soldiers, all in this really intense buildup to try to get General Shepard. If I'm not mistaken, I think Captain Price noob tubes the helicopter, but we're also going over a fucking waterfall. Everything is just crashing and burning, and ultimately we end up at Rust for the ultimate 1v1 of all time. Captain Price and General Shepard struggle for what feels like forever. This was like going on and on. They were fighting over a gun, but ultimately that gets knocked out of the equation. They're beating each other up. I think our character was stabbed with a knife, which ultimately we pull out of our body, and we use that knife to throw it at General Shepard's eye and finish him off and kill him. And man, to this day, this still gives me chills thinking about it, because it's not just the fact that there's this really intense struggle and this massive buildup to really one of the best climaxes in a Call of Duty campaign, but it's also the fact that, you know, roughly halfway through the Modern Warfare 2 campaign, General Shepard betrayed our character. We thought he was a good guy. We were led to believe that he was leading us in the right direction, and then ultimately, he betrayed us. For a lot of longtime Call of Duty fans, this was like a gut-wrenching and soul-crushing scene. The original Ghost death scene in Modern Warfare 2 is enough to make a grown man cry. It is ridiculous, man. But more importantly, after that moment in the campaign happens, you are going to dedicate the rest of your time playing that campaign to finding General Shepard and enacting your revenge on him, because that was fucked up. But at the same time, that's why it makes for good storytelling. It's because, you know, you're playing the campaign and everything seems fine and dandy, and then there's like this fork that happens where General Shepard betrays you, and then it's all a buildup leading to that moment. After being completely blindsided and betrayed, you get to kill him at the end of the game, and you don't have to just watch it or experience it through a cutscene. You get to actually do it yourself. So yeah, overall, if we're moving more in the direction of having, you know, open combat missions or even just having an open world campaign, we're gonna be missing out on moments like that in our Call of Duty campaigns. A lot of the storytelling, a lot of the gameplay experiences and stuff, it can really only be done when you have these linear scripted missions. And if they're going to be moving away from that, there's a pretty good chance that a lot of the Call of Duty community is not going to have a great reaction to it. And honestly, I don't know how to feel about this, because, you know, it is being made by Raven, and they haven't been the lead developer for a Call of Duty campaign. So it's like, I want to give them a chance. I want to see how it's going to turn out. But I'm not going to lie, man, I still have my doubts. And it's not because of Raven, but it's because of the trends we've been seeing recently with our COD campaigns. And really, it's this section that just makes things even worse, and it has me even more skeptical. It's the fact that they want to make more open world campaigns and potentially just move completely away from linear campaigns going forward with Call of Duty games, which I don't think is a good idea. It's also pretty interesting to see that Call of Duty 2025 doesn't have an assigned leading developer. So it sounds like everything at this point for COD 2025 is still in the early conceptual stages. So things could very much change a lot going into that game. But they do say that it's pitched to have an open world campaign, so they could just end up doing that again. And this is really what worries me too, is that they're not doing an open world campaign because they really want to. It straight up says here that the campaign shift from linear to open world is primarily based on streamlining development over anything else. So it's not because of a creative decision or because they want to explore and try different things. It's sounding like they're doing this because of the strain that's been put on the developers to rush these games out and to get the campaigns ready in time. And that is what has me worried more than anything. It's not a conscious decision based off of, you know, creative choices and stuff. These poor devs, these poor employees are being crunched into oblivion. And if they're not careful, they're not going to have anyone left to work on these COD campaigns if they can't give them enough time to actually develop something that's meaningful and good. I just realized after dissecting the article, I don't know if we have to go through Charlie's tweets because he's just kind of summarizing different points that were brought up in the article. Yeah, this is the only tweet that doesn't really have to do with the article. It says there's an update from Phil Spencer and Xbox, and they apparently want to talk about the future of Xbox in the next week or so. So maybe they'll talk about Call of Duty now that they, you know, had that whole deal go through. There's also some stuff about bringing Xbox games to PlayStation that doesn't really have anything to do with Call of Duty. But yeah, man, that's pretty much it for this article. I definitely want to hear from you guys. What do you think about Call of Duty having an open world campaign for 2024 and beyond? I really want to hear what you guys think about this. I think you guys can already tell from my perspective that this news, this information is bumming me out. I can't even, you know, like bring myself to do a normal outro. So thank you guys very much for watching. I really do hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did and you want Call of Duty to just go back to being a good video game, make sure to drop a like. I'll see you guys later.
Outcome, Triangle.